You ready?
Oh yeah,
Perfect.
sure.
So if we can start, if you could tell us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about your childhood.
Okay. I'm Lucy Rifenburg. I lived in Germantown all my life. I was born at the time I was born. It was Hudson City Hospital, which is now Columbia Memorial Hospital. I have one older brother. I have an older sister who's deceased, then me, and my younger sister Claire, who lives in Wisconsin.
What were your parents like?
My mother came from a small town called Carmel, Maine, near Bangor, Maine. My father met her when he was selling maps, and they corresponded for a few years. And he had to be in her town for a week before they could get married. And his parents went with him, and then when they got married, his parents traveled back with him. And of course, back then it took them 2 days to get here. My mother, of course, back then didn't have the conveniences that we have now, and worked pretty hard, putting food on the table and doing laundry, which she did with an old-fashioned wringer washer. And my father, when I was real little, worked as a gatekeeper on the railroad. He worked at the North Germantown crossing, and he worked at the crossing in Tivoli. And then, I can't remember exactly when. I was trying to think what year it was. He became a mailman, a rural delivery, and he worked there 23 years. And before his health failed, and he died when he was 60 years old. He had emphysema and that type of thing from smoking cigarettes. My mother she died the night before she was 101 and enjoyed pretty good health all that time. She did end up in a nursing home for about 6 or 7 years, I guess, due mainly because she had arthritis so badly in her knees. If you'd given her 2 new legs, she could still live by herself. Her mind was fantastic. And when we were kids, we rode our bicycles wherever we wanted to go. We had one car. My father had a brand new car in 1940, paid $800 for it. And as I said, we wanted to go any place, we had to ride our bicycles. And when we were kids, most of us worked. I babysat. I helped a lady, a Mrs. Hubbard, who lived on Northern Boulevard, and cleaned house 1 or 2 nights after school and Saturdays. And we babysat for people here in town. Mostly, I think they were some distant relatives of yours. Hober's daughter, Barbara Middleton, who had 2 little girls. I babysat for them for $1.25 a night. So times have changed there, that's for sure. So, and went to Germantown Central School. We rode a school bus, of course. What else?
Did your father ever bring you down when he was working at the railroads? Did he ever bring you down? And
no, but he took my older sister and my younger sister back in 1937. My mother was in the hospital for 1 month she had broken appendix, and he took them to work with them every day. My older brother and I stayed with my grandparents up on 9G, at the house that just before you cut off to go to the Anchorage Road, the one that sits on the right-hand side of the road there. And we stayed there with them. So, and
That's my question. Do you remember the day that your father brought home the car?
yes, I remember the car. I can see the picture of the car now. So
What kind of car was it?
it was the 1940 Chevrolet, and it was sort of a gray color. So I think he was quite proud of it. for back then. So, and what else?
Around that time, was that when the start of the cars were coming into the town, or had cars already been kind of a mainstay of the town? It just took a little bit longer for this family or that family, or.
I think most people had cars around then, but most people couldn't afford new ones. I think, people use secondhand ones a lot more than they do now. So, but let me see, what else do you want to know here?
What about going to school in Germantown? What was it like to go to school there?
I don't know if there's such a tremendous change in school. We had no kindergarten. We went right to first grade. I don't remember too much about my first grade or second grade teachers. I do remember my third grade teacher was Helen Henderson. My class was the first class she taught here at Germantown Central School. And of course then she was, Miss Coons. And Alice Brown, or Alice Boyce she was then, was the fourth grade teachers. And I remember Miss Brown, as she was then, taking our class to see the movie Pinocchio. Probably, I don't know if it was the first movie I saw or not, but we didn't go to the movies too much back then. So, and of course, went through school, graduated in 1948. I went to work in Hudson for a man by the name of Mr. Hardy. It was called the E.P. Hardy Company, and it was a mill supply thing. He, bought products that they needed and then delivered them to their factories. He did a lot up through like Gloversville, Amsterdam, those towns where there was big textile manufacturing. And I worked there until Gail was born. And I did work for a little while after, just a couple of days doing his billing and stuff. And then I ended up doing his billing at home for him. And I think, I don't know when I actually quit doing that. But it did it for a few years, probably until Sandy and the twins were born. I probably quit about then, I guess. So. And of course I had the 5 children. I had Gail, Alice, Sandy, and the twins. And at the time the twins was born, this sort of shocked people, Gail was only 4, and I had 5 kids. But we managed very well. So, but my sister did not get married till 8 years after I did, and she was a big help to me. She, lots of times on the weekend, would take the twins or any one of the girls and take them home with her and keep them for the weekend. And she wasn't one who liked to get up too early, so she used to put a banana or a little individual box of cereal or something in the boys' bed, keep them quiet till she got up. And my kids kind of thought she was like a second mother to them, and she had no children. So they have always been very good to her too up until she died. So.
Growing up in the town, were there, in your teenage years, what was there to do for fun? What were the social events like?
You played with kids, you rode bicycles. We used to go down Dodge's Hill on a toboggan with the Dodge kids. We used to play softball with them. As I said, let me see what else. Of course, we had no place to go swimming because your parents didn't have a car to take you. Although my brother used to ride his bicycle up Dale's Bridge. That's where he learned to swim. There was the big, what they used to call big rock up there that the kids jumped off of and swam up there and all. And I had made up my mind that my kids was going to learn to swim. So when they got old enough, I used to take them up to Dale's Bridge and take swimming lessons up there. And they all learned how to swim. So, and what else?
So you started, your family was, born and raised here, and then you started your own family here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the difference for your children was growing up here opposed to your childhood?
I don't think there was a big difference. We're probably involved more in sports at school than when I went to school. Although I had a disadvantage because they discovered I had a heart murmur and they wouldn't let me take gymnasium, so I was at a disadvantage there. But I think my kids, were more involved in school projects than probably than I was. But
Growing up, what were your responsibilities around the home? I know you said your mother worked really hard to get food on the table and the clothes clean. And did you have any responsibilities? And
oh yes, we had to do. You want to get that, Sandy? We had to do the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Keep our rooms, of course. And as I said, we worked outside our home, and the money
I think you're talking to my mom.
we earned, we spent, we helped buy our clothes. And we used to pay for our school rings, our yearbooks, all those little things, that when you're bringing up 4 kids, back in those times, when only one parent worked, you didn't have that for. So that's, the kind of thing we did. So.
Should we let him out or her out?
There you go. What do you think it is about this town that keeps people, or that makes people want to stay and want to raise their families and further their generations in the town?
Well, I think unfortunately, you don't have a lot of employment here. I think, for especially now. Back then, we were a little more fortunate, I guess, because you could get a halfway decent job with a high school education, which you're not going to do today. And I think the closeness of families, people in town and everything, I think is one thing that people enjoyed. I don't know, other than that, of course, with transportation today, people can travel to Albany, Poughkeepsie, and that type, which you didn't do back then. Usually if you traveled to Hudson, it was a big deal. So. And then I got married in 1950. At the time we got married, what did my husband do? I'm trying to think. I think he had a milk delivery room. No, he worked for A.D. Juilliard. It was a woolen mill up in Stottville, and which paid pretty good money back then. But then the union, they went on strike, and they left Stottville. They went down south. Then's when he had a milk group delivery, and he had started that. I don't remember just when. Then IBM opened in Kingston, and he said, well, what should I do? I said, you know what? Go try it. You got the job fine. So he got hired in 1956. 1955. December of 1955. He got paid $54 a week to start with. And Sandy was born the following June, and somebody said what's the word I want here? Didn't have that rule where you had to work there 9 months or something, and they did pay the hospital bill, which I thought was kind of fantastic back then. And he worked there for 31 years. Retired in 1986. So that was a big help to us when he, got that job. I never worked full time. I worked, as I said, for the textile place. Then I didn't work other than, I did do some house cleaning jobs. Then I don't remember what year it was, I went to work part-time for our town attorney, Arthur Reuter. And I worked 4 mornings a week from 9 to 12. And for 15 years. So that was very nice. At that time, Gail had thought she wanted to go to college. Went 1 year and decided she didn't want to do that anymore. But I did stay working there for 15 years. It was very nice. So.
Since there's so much history in the town, do you ever find yourself and your family in the midst of a tradition that maybe was started by your parents or their parents before. There's so much history, and people are still here. I wonder if there are any traditions that you took from your parents that you've passed on, and your kids may have passed on to their children.
All right, Sandra, help me.
I mean, holidays, any holiday traditions, or any family.
It's just that we pretty much spend them together.
Yes, we've always
Yeah.
been a pretty
Holidays are
close
always
family.
Family time.
time. The kids have always, my brothers and sisters, we've always stayed fairly close. My kids stay fairly close, and pretty much, celebrate the holidays with one another and that type of thing. But any special tradition, I can't think of any offhand. No, can't think of anything.
Do you remember where you were and what you were doing when the JFK assassination happened?
Yes. I had my neighbor Betty Jennings was here visiting when someone, I forgot to call on the phone, and said that President Kennedy had been assassinated. She was here visiting. That's what I was doing. So.
Did the town? Was there any reaction to in the town? The dog's excited. Was there any reaction in the town in the wake of that? After that?
Not that I remember. Brandy, stop.
So excited.
It's gonna run into something.
She likes Travis.
Don't worry, we'll do an interview with you too. But it's okay. What about the Vietnam War? Was there do you remember what the town was like when that was kind of ramping up and as the boys were shipping out?
I can't think of anything special. No.
Let's see. So we like to ask the same 4 questions at the end of each interview to each interviewee. So we'll just go through those. What for you has changed the most in Germantown over your years?
Let's see. I don't really know, to tell you the truth. I can't, I'm trying to think of something that...
If you can't think of anything, that's okay. There's no wrong answers. You get 1 pass. You can always put down your pass.
I don't know. I don't think our town has changed a great deal. I mean, of course, you have Conic Farms that came in and supplied a lot of jobs, for people. Your school didn't change that much. I don't think. I think you see a big difference in churches as to when I was a kid. I think 90% of the kids in your class belonged to some church and went to Sunday school, where today there's a big difference there, that's for sure.
Just to follow up with that, what was, as a kid, what was church on Sunday like? What was that Sunday for you? How did your day go?
Well, my father belonged to the Methodist Church here, and his parents, of course, belonged there. And at that time, my father was tending gates, and so he was not available to transport us to the Methodist Church. So they said we had to go to Sunday school someplace. So we walked to the Reformed Church, and that's how we kids became members of the Reformed Church.
What was the church like on a Sunday? Was it
It was-
bustling or was it?
Yes, and that's what I say. I mean, Christmas and Easter, people sat up in the balcony because, and I think somebody said our church would seat 275 people, and they had people up in the balcony. Now, sorry to say, we're lucky if we have, maybe half full on Easter or Christmas. Not like it used to be, that's for sure. So, and I don't know. I just feel I read someplace one time that a child's character is formed between the ages of 3 and 9. And I really think that if a child has a little bit of basic religion, it makes a big difference in how they grow up. That's my theory. So, and
So then, on the other hand, what is the constant for Germantown? What does Germantown mean to you? What is it at its core for you?
the friendliness of people we've always known, grown up with. That's one thing I think has changed a great deal. I don't think people are so busy today they don't visit like we did years ago. Most of the women did not work, and you visited with other people who had children. Your children got played together and everything, which I think is lacking today. I mean, how many kids that are growing up today know how to play fox and geese or kick the can or that type of thing? I think they miss a lot of that type of relationship. Is missing. But otherwise, I don't know. I just think I'm favor the fact that you have this small town and you do have relationships with people that you don't have in bigger places, and I think that's missing a lot. So.
And so for you, you have I guess, what is it now, the fifth or sixth generation of your family is now born and being raised in Germantown. What do you hope for the future for everyone that comes after? What do you hope the future is in Germantown for them? If you could pass on any ideal or moral for them, what do you think it would be?
Well, I hope that they can continue to keep some of the family traditions for the holidays and that type of thing. That they always stay close. And I think the small town, what do I want to say? Relations of being able to know your neighbors and things continue. I like Germantown School, the small classes and the the being able to know all the kids in your class and be friendly with them, like things, and have teachers who, years ago, your teachers really took an interest in kids and how well they did. And I think we have a pretty good school, have had, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's certainly, I think, one of the better elementary schools around here. So, and I think we have a pretty good bunch of kids. Sometimes I don't think they're given enough credit for how good they are.
We had a pretty great school nurse for a while, I remember that.
The best.
Well, thank you very much for sitting down and chatting with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, glad to do it. So
Perfect.
Probably I wasn't too helpful about some things,
it was great. It was great.
but
It was great. Let me get this microphone for you.
The one thing she forgot to tell you is that she's a lasher.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
They've been here for a million years. They got off the boat.